Well, good evening. It is very, very comforting and reassuring and encouraging to have been part of the class this evening. The comments were great. The study was great. Just an encouragement in studying with the kids, getting ready for their classes, and just being here with everybody is a huge source of encouragement for myself, and hopefully it is for you guys. Tonight, I want to talk about a few words that really can kind of trigger some people, and that's stress, worry, and anxiety. So there's some of you where your pulse probably went up a couple beats because it is so prevalent. And the words themselves are just, they have so much weight behind them. And it's so frustrating too, because even when you look at the definition of stress, which we've all felt stress, even in children, what they have to go through in school, at very young ages, they feel stress. They don't know what it is. They don't know the word for it yet. But stress can be defined as the degree into which you feel overwhelmed or unable to cope as a result of pressures that are unmanageable. You know the frustrating part about that is the pressures usually come from ourselves. The expectations are usually set from within, and we have control over those. And what's frustrating is those stresses are usually brought on by lack of preparation. Or they're brought on by lack of realistic expectations. In being able to have been blessed enough to travel overseas, I learned what Italian time was. And we were in a certain place for 3 days. And every day we ate breakfast at this same place. And I watched two men try to assemble, it's almost like an IKEA 4-foot tall wrought iron fence that was literally 6 feet long. They brought the stuff on day 1. By day 3, the posts were up and that was it. Okay? So they lived on such a different time frame. It wasn't, I had to build the biggest, baddest, best fence. It had to be up the fastest. It had to be the prettiest. It had to function. Because without the fence there, it was like on a cliff. And you were going down, So, and so it was just interesting to have been put in that culture, because I'd never seen that before. I was raised with a family that I was raised in daycare when I was young because both my parents worked, which is okay, but it was business. My stepdad, who raised me, in my example, he worked full time. He owned another business, 2 other businesses, ironically, and he worked so hard that he was able to buy the business that he worked for during the day. It was all business all the time. He set these level of expectations that were so high that that's where he went. And that's okay, right? We can set our own expectations, but we're also putting that stress on us. And sometimes when we start to stress out about so much, another word pops in that's called worry. And when you start to worry about something, that to me starts to be almost a heavier burden. Stress is going to come and go, right? Like the test that you kids probably have on Friday, or a report that's due Friday. That stress is going to come and go, right? Because you're either going to do the work or you're not. And the time's going to come, and then it's going to pass. But worry, that worry of the report card that's coming in 3 months, is really, really heavy. And worry says, the definition of worry is to give way to anxiety or unease, allow one's mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles. It's a state of anxiety or uncertainty over actual or potential problems. And that's where worry gets heavier. Because it's not just, hey, I'm either going to pass or fail this, right? Worry looks at the potential. So now you're just making stuff up. Now your brain is going 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're creating all of these scenarios, and it's all self-imposed. But in that definition of worry, we read twice the word anxiety. Anxiety is almost like a medical condition. You see how all of these start to compound on top of each other. You've set this level of expectation of, I have to be perfect. If I own a business, it has to be the best and the most profitable and the most successful. If I'm in this, I have to. And then what does that do? Now you start worrying about things like, well, how am I going to get my product? Or how am I going to get these things? Or now what am I going to do? And you kind of just start to feel really heavy. And then you just are anxious and you're just shaking all the time because your just anxiety level is just astronomical. And what was interesting was in one of my readings this week in Luke chapter 12, starting at verse 22, there's a little bold section. And I was here, and I needed this. You want to talk about daily reading, daily Bible reading is so important because of little things like this. I was scrolling, and I scrolled to this part, and in bold letters, it says, the cure for anxiety. And I just laughed. I was like, man, I need this right now. Verse 22, then Jesus said to his disciples, therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life. Don't worry about what you will eat, about the body, what you will wear, for life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They don't sow or reap. They don't have a storeroom or a barn, yet God feeds them. Aren't you worth much more than the birds? Can any of you add a cubit to his height by worrying? If then you're not able to do even a little thing, why worry about the rest? Consider how the wildflowers grow. They don't labor or spin thread, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was adorned like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass, which is in the field today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, how much more will he do for you, you of little faith? Don't keep striving for what you should eat and what you should drink, and don't be anxious. For the Gentile world eagerly seeks all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. God's got you. Solomon in all of his splendor. I will not speak for anybody else. I won't personally reach one little step stool towards Solomon's splendor. And God says, don't worry about it. I've got you. Your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom. Don't worry. Don't be anxious. God will take care of you, but you have to seek his kingdom. And these things will be provided to you. I would not have had this help. You wouldn't see this face, and I wouldn't be talking about this topic if it wasn't for just my daily Bible reading, just seeking him. I've not been good at it for a long time, and I knew I needed it, and so I tried to start a good habit, right? It's one of those New Year's resolutions that always come and goes, and you feel guilty because you miss like 4 days, and you're like, ugh. But it's there. God is there for you. You just have to seek him. Corey led the perfect song, The Storm. God is with you in your storm. He's with you. We just have to seek him. It could be a few letters in bold type that someone just typed in there as a title. But God wants you. You just have to come to him. So tonight, if there's anything we can do for you, if there's anything on your mind that you're stressing about, that you're worrying about, that you're anxious about, we're here for you. We want to be a part of that for you. We want to help lift that burden, even if it's literally just a virtual hug or an actual hug. If there's something you're struggling with in your life, if you are sinning somewhere and you can't break that, we aren't here to judge you. We're here to help you. If you need to confess those things, or if you want to seek God so much that you know you're outside of him, you're outside of the water, outside of the baptism, we can do that. All you have to do is seek him. If we can do anything for you tonight, please come forward as we stand and sing.